So greetings from Pennsylvania once again, and today we are in Mifflin County, here in Lewistown. Right up there is Business 22. I believe this is called Victory Park. Right down here is the Juniata River. And we are here in Lewistown today to do a video on a man named Captain Jacobs. This is part of our French and Indian War series. Of course, this video is going to be uploaded a bit out of order. Coming up soon, you'll see a video on the Kittanning Expedition. I've been hinting at that for quite a while, but I wanted to get this video done before the Kittanning Expedition because it deals with one of the players in that expedition. But I ran out of time. I did the video on John Armstrong. I wanted to get that one done, but I forgot to do this one. So anyway, we're doing it today, about 2 weeks after I filmed the Kittanning Expedition. We'll get that uploaded earlier though. But not a bad little spot along the river here. Like I said, this is the Juniata, and just up ahead is another creek that flows into the Juniata. The locals just call it the Kish. In fact, I just got gas right up there and I asked the guy what the name of the creek was. I just want to see how the locals pronounce it. I'll put the name down below here on the screen just so you can see the full name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. But I think I'm going to make my way up to that creek where it flows into the Juniata, because right in that area is where an old Indian village used to be in this area, and that's where Captain Jacobs was from. So when I say Captain Jacobs, you might automatically think, oh, he must have been an English settler. No, he wasn't. He wasn't English, he wasn't French. He was Native American. So what's a Native American doing being called Captain Jacobs? His real name was, I'll put his real name down here, Tawia. I'm horrible at those names. But he got called that because one of the first settlers in this area was a man named Arthur Buchanan, and he said that Tawia resembled a burly German from Cumberland County that he knew named Jacobs. I guess because our fellow Tawia was a chief, he called him Captain Jacobs, I guess. So that's how he got the name Captain Jacobs, and it kind of stuck. That's what he got called the rest of his life, especially during like the French and Indian War period. They've got an interesting painting up here too. This is called Victory Park, so it's kind of like a war memorial park. That's actually pretty cool. We'll take a closer look at it here. We're doing the French and Indian War. Looks like this dates back to World War I era and onwards. Kind of a cool mural though, put underneath this highway bridge. It's a lot better than the graffiti you normally see. Alright, but we'll continue on this way. Yeah, so at first, when the first settlers came, our man, Captain Jacobs, was kind of reluctant to let them buy land in this area, but after, as one website says, after some alcohol and some other trinkets were offered to him, he was much more open to selling land to the settlers. And unfortunately, that's a familiar theme in a lot of instances with the settlers and their dealings with the Native Americans. You know, they'd offer them, alcohol and other things to sway them to sell them the land they wanted. But after a while, as more and more settlers moved into the area, Captain Jacobs and his people became much more, I think I'll shade it out quite a bit there. Captain Jacobs and his people became much more disgruntled with the amount of settlers that were moving into the area. And it says all of a sudden Captain Jacobs and his people, they just all of a sudden just moved up, left the area and burned their village down and left. Almost kind of out of anger. We'll come down here and get a closer view of the Juniata. Of course, it would have looked much different back then, 1760s, 1750s. So I'm not sure exactly where the Native American village was in this area. I believe the Kish flows in just up there, if I remember my map correctly. I asked the gas attendant fellow if people ever found, oh, the guy was killed here, if people ever found like arrowheads in the area, Indian artifacts, and he didn't really know of any. We'll keep our eyes open. And then Captain Jacobs was one of the many Indian chiefs then that joined the French, against the English settlers. And after Braddock's defeat, remember the whole video on Braddock's expedition, that whole failure, that whole expedition soured a lot of the relationship between the English and the Native Americans here. So he was one of the many chiefs that joined up with the French, and making those attacks and raids on the English settlers in central and eastern PA. I think he stuck mostly in central PA. He was one of the key figures in the fall of Fort Granville, which is actually just down the road. We filmed that this past spring. He was the one that captured that fort and killed the guy in charge of that fort. What's his name? Edward Armstrong, Colonel John Armstrong's younger brother. This was one of the reasons that led directly to the Kittanning Expedition. Then, just kind of looking, just kind of scanning the area for any artifacts down here. Just seeing a lot of trash. Nothing historical worthy. But yeah, this is where Captain Jacobs had his village. It's kind of interesting. Just kind of wonder what it looked like back then. And concerning his attacks on some of the different forts and settlers, let me read you a quote by him. He claims that he could take any fort that would catch fire, and that was true in some sense. He did. That's what happened to Fort Granville. They got on fire. But he says that he would make peace, referring to the settlers in the English, when they taught him how to make gunpowder. So if they would teach him how to make gunpowder, then he would make peace with the English and the settlers. So that's interesting. I wonder if the French were willing to teach him how to make gunpowder since he sided with them. Who knows? All right, let's walk up this way a bit. It is a bit trashy down here. There's a small creek right here. Not sure if this is the Kish. Looks a little too small, but maybe just a drainage culvert. Head up this way. But yeah, his activities, if you want to call them that, take the burning of Fort Granville, the killing of John Armstrong's younger brother, and all the other attacks that he made on the settlers, put him on, I guess what we could call the Pennsylvania's most wanted list. I don't know if they had a list like that back then, but that's pretty much what happened. Whoops, I tripped. That's pretty much what happened to him. Became one of their most wanted. And of course, as mentioned, these activities of his, if we could call them that, are what led to the Kittanning Expedition. There were different goals of the Kittanning Expedition. One was to capture or to kill Captain Jacobs, and one was to rescue a number of the captives taken by him at places like Fort Granville. So when you see the video on the Kittanning Expedition, you'll have to see if those results were achieved. Well, I guess I could let you know, he was killed in the Battle of Kittanning during that expedition. But we'll leave the rest of that for that video as to exactly what happened to him there. But they did succeed in that that aspect of the goal for the Kittanning Expedition. So just another view of the Juniata. Yeah, I was looking for the Kish, the Kish Creek. Not sure if it's further up or if we did see it back there. I'm not from the area, so anyway, I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments. Maybe it was further up. Who knows? Maybe it was on the other side of that bridge. But yeah, beautiful spot down here along the river. You just try to picture what it looked like back then. Quite a bit different. And when it comes to these historical videos, I do try to put myself on both sides of the issue sometimes. I know people get upset at me sometimes saying you're siding with this person or you're siding with that side. Not really. I think from a historical perspective, if you really want to understand history, sometimes you try to put yourself on both sides of what happened. Obviously, I can side with Captain Jacobs a bit. This is his home area. Initially, he agreed to let some of the settlers move here, howbeit under the influence of alcohol. Then regretting it later as more and more of them come and move into your area, take over your land, cutting down your forests, putting up fences and agriculture, and I don't know. How would I feel about that? I feel like part of me would just move and leave in a hurry too, maybe, and get fed up with all the new settlers coming in. I can understand that, and then of course the whole Braddock's expedition was a huge failure. General Braddock was not a friend to the Native American Indians. Even those that had allied with him, he treated pretty badly. And like I said, that really soured the relationship between the Native Americans and the English settlers. Braddock's expedition was just a huge failure in so many ways. But at the same time, you can't necessarily condone turning to violence. You know, using your anger and turning it against innocent people. And all these settlers were innocent folks. You know, they weren't really part of a war. You know, to come in and just massacre them, scalp them, and do other horrible things to them out of anger and retaliation isn't really the right thing to do either. So, yeah, you can kind of see both sides. Who knows, maybe he was a peaceful guy initially and just turned to rage. I don't know. Get revenge. Revenge and retaliation can do bad things to a person. But that's war too. You know, during times of war, you know, people end up doing horrible things they wouldn't necessarily do normally. Not that that really excuses them though either. But anyway, you can let me know in the comments down below what you think of Captain Jacobs. Do you have any other thoughts yourself? Like I said, I'm not really taking sides, just sometimes from a perspective of a historian, sometimes like it's good to see things from both different angles. Alright, but that's just a little story, a little history of Captain Jacobs, one of the players in the Kittanning Expedition, which you'll see shortly, that video. So just one last look at the area. That's a beautiful view down that way, actually. Yeah, the story of Captain Jacobs. Yeah, so he died, I should mention, he died September 8th, 1756, which was the date of the Kittanning battle. He was born about 1730. So maybe about 26 years old. Alright, but I think that'll be it for this video. I'm going to head to some other places today. But you won't see those videos till much later after this one, because like I said, I'm uploading this one up out of order of some of the other ones. Alright, as always, thanks for coming along these little adventures, and we'll see you on the next one.